And a good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. America, and welcome to the Freedom Forum, an online radio program brought to you by Santa Cruz Voice, an affiliate of Community TV in downtown Santa Cruz, where you can listen and be heard. This is your host again today, Jeff Bossart, and I have with me our good friend, co-host, Vernon Bohr. Hello, Vernon. Can we hear you?
Yes. Well, hope you can. I
Well,
can hear you, Lima Charlie, as they say, loud and clear.
very good. Thanks for the Charlie. Last week we celebrated Memorial Day, as we often end up with holidays on our Mondays. But of course, Memorial Day is only for those who were in the service and died in service to their country, of which there were many, many whom we remember. But it left out all the other folks who were willing and did go overseas and other places to fight the battles of our country. And they have their own Veterans Day. Still, I would like to commemorate all the people that served with a brief excerpt from a poem that I love to read. And I'm going to read it to you now, just briefly. Give us men from every rank, fresh and free and frank, men of thought and reading, men of light and leading, men of loyal breeding, the nation's welfare speeding, men of faith and not of fiction, men of lofty aim and action. Give us men, I say again, give us men. Strong and stalwart ones, men in whom highest hope inspires, men in whom purest honor fires, men who trample self beneath them, who make their country wreath them, as their noble sops worthy of their sires, who never shame their mothers and never fail their brothers. True, however, false are others. Therefore give us men. Again I say, give us men. And in those days it was strictly men. We didn't have women going overseas to battle, as we may have today, but such is the change of things from time to time. And today we're going to take our leave of Memorial Day. Typically, though, we would have done it on the 30th, which was the old Memorial Day, and the 30th came on Saturday. That's why I wanted to do a little follow-up. So, Vernon, what have you to talk with us about today?
Oh, Jeff, depends. Whatever you want to talk about, I think this country is in worse shape than it realizes with it worries about the debt, but that is maybe one of the minor problems we need to consider. And what you don't hear about, and I've mentioned many times, are the unfunded liabilities.
Yeah, and that's tied in with what's happening with the budget process now with the, big and beautiful bill that went before the Congress and slimly got passed and now is sitting in the Senate. And it's going to be hacked up by people on all sides with their issues. And they're all good issues. One issue, let's not expand the national debt. Maybe contract it a little bit, pay it down, benefit our grandchildren instead of robbing them. Taking a look at what we call various things that people are entitled to. We call them entitlements. Look at maybe not spending quite as much, maybe dropping some things. DOJ has found some places we might save some money. But generally looking at the bureaucracy that is our bureaucracy, we can do something about that. And we can do it now not just to gain more control over our lives and put all of our legislation back in the Congress where it belongs, but do the right thing. And when doing the right thing, we have to keep in mind the three different branches of government, the executive, the judicial, and then back to Congress again. Congress is the one that has the right to set the tariffs. And Trump is setting tariffs. And tariffs is a subject all unto itself. But keep in mind, the Congress doesn't mind his doing that. They gave him authorization to do it. And the Supreme Court said, well, you can't do that. Congress, you've got to keep that in your own bailiwick. But those are just the issues for today. And I think Vernon has stumbled on the one that we most want to talk to make sure we cover it very well and then move on if we have time to do other things like commercials. We like doing that. So, Vernon, do you have anything to add to that, or you want to launch right into our little discussion and talk things?
I want to add an additional word to that that's often ignored, and it's called structural. Jeff, you were
Structural unfunded liabilities?
or
structural debt?
Structural deficits. And as an attorney, you know a retired attorney, you know how important definitions are. And this goes back, believe it or not, probably around 30 years ago. I was driving home from over the hill, and I heard an interview of an elected official, and they started talking about structural budget deficits. And my radar went off, and I says, I've never heard them use that word before.
No, you would think that would be confined to people who deal with physics and engineering, building, construction.
Yeah, but the other thing that went off in my mind is, that must mean something if they're slipping that word in right now, what a structural deficit is.
Yeah, they could have just said deficit and moved on.
People have budget deficits, but structural deficits are when you have deficits as far as the eye can see with no means of funding them other than borrowing.
Right, and that's where we are today, even from way back when you heard that to only getting worse since then.
Yes, so we're up to 35 trillion in what we owe, what we've borrowed already. It's been within the last 3 or 4 months that the interest we're paying on the debt exceeds what we pay out on defense. And I've been watching that grow for quite a while. Within the next 5 to 10 years, the interest on the debt is going to grow to chew up most of the budget. And we haven't even gotten into the unfunded liabilities, and which are merely those things that we will owe in the future that are not included in the budgetary process, but we have to pay it out down the line. Whether it be Social Security, public retirements, all these things. And I don't know if most of our listeners or most of America realize that our unfunded liabilities are roughly 3 times our national debt. Let that sink in. They're over $100 trillion.
Well, when you start, there's $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. Pretty soon you're talking about a whole lot of money.
Yeah, the problem is that you get to the point where you can't borrow to fill in the amount. You just don't have the money to pay for it. And I've been amazed for years now as I've heard our politicians just glibly say, "Oh well, when the Social Security Trust Fund runs out of money, we'll still be able to pay out 78% of what we do now," and it just doesn't add up to me, because they're the same people that say that people can't live on what they get in Social Security now. And I understand that we've forgotten that Social Security was not originally intended to be your sole retirement. It was a supplemental plan, but for a lot of people it is. And what came to mind is, does anybody realize what that sounds like when you tell someone, "Oh, don't worry, you can't live on what you're getting now, but you'll get 77% of what you can't live on at the moment"? It's just a very strange logic, and it's coming up on us faster and faster. Since I started looking at the trust fund data, the period of time for the Social Security to go to zero has been 2035. It hasn't changed over the years. We've been able to hold it at bay for the last 20 or 30 years, but that's right around the corner now.
Well, it was held at bay by currently relatively young workers paying money in, while the older workers at the other end on this so-called Ponzi scheme are taking money out. And the money coming out is supposed to support those people who put money in and did this all their lives. So I have an analogy to help people understand the predicament. I'll just throw this out at you, and then we'll just move on. Imagine you're a small family. Your wife says, "We want to take this wonderful vacation I've set up for us, and it's going to cost us $50,000. And the husband says, well, we only have $5,000. She says, well, we can borrow enough to do this. But the other thing is the husband's employment is very iffy and might run out in the very near future. And there is where our country stands today, having to make the choice of spending money we don't have by borrowing and maybe not being able to pay it back.
Yeah, and we don't know how much we're going to have to borrow because all of the unfunded liabilities are in the speculative range. And so as they come due, we have to pay them back. Another analogy I would put out there, unfunded liabilities are kind of like balloon payments on a mortgage. They're monies that come due. You know when they come due, but you don't have the money to pay it. And you have all sorts of things going on here. You've got people depending on, let's say, federal retirements, government retirements, but there's no money for it. There's a lot of unrest and unease, and like I say, it's coming up on us. You know, we're within 10 years of Social Security Trust Fund running out. Medicare is even worse. And
Medicaid, Medi-Cal.
Yeah, Medicaid, Medi-Cal. And we have people going so far as to say, oh, no problem, we have to have health care for all paid for by a government that currently doesn't have the money to meet its current obligations. So Jeff and I kicked this around. It really is worse than we think. Musk is really disappointed with this wonderful new, what's it called, the beautiful bill?
Yes. He doesn't like the same things I don't like. It doesn't handle the national debt issue primarily and spends more than it takes in. And
are you saying it adds to the national debt?
Yes, the way they're looking at it now, because they don't have enough raises in income taxes. They're looking at a way to cut down some income taxes, especially for the non-rich, but maybe helping the rich ones as well. And the only way we get out of this is with more people putting in more money. So I see taxes going up, and people don't like that. You know, have another ending cycle.
Well, you know, this has been 3, 4, 5 years now. The Social Security Trust Fund data said that we would have to raise the withholding tax to 22% to break even. Right now, a lot of people don't think 15% is bad.
50% of what they earn goes into the pile.
Right. So, you know, that's a 30% increase for people that don't know numbers. It just means you're going to pay 1/5 of your income in taxes, and it still is only a temporarily delays the problems down the line.
Well, looking ahead to the rest of the day, Vernon, and those of you listening, we were able, through very deft technology on my part, to get ourselves in a position to accept phone calls now and for the rest of the program. So, folks, you can call in at the number 831-265-5050. And when you get connected, you'll be put on hold and you'll be able to hear the station's program while you're waiting to get in, and we'll probably get you in pretty quickly, as we've been able to do. Even we had a couple of visitors a couple of weeks ago. So we can do it. So call in.
Jeff, I'll share another one of my little wisdom quotes by McAfee. You know, the virus software. Oh, yeah. He's gone now, John McAfee.
Well, his ghost lives on. His company's still trying to get me to sign up.
Oh yeah. They're big. He was one of the early ones, but I remember seeing him in an interview one time, and he said one of those little gems that stuck with me, and it goes as follows: the veneer of civilization is very thin. So when we think about the possibility of upcoming financial problems in this country, as it may go bankrupt, we got to realize that people, when things get unsettled, the probability of becoming uncivilized goes up.
Yeah, and a lot of folks are getting practice with that uncivilized, even though nothing is sitting in front of them that looms that large. For example, the Democrats out there urging people to continue their protesting. Go ahead and set fire to those Teslas and key them up, you know. Maybe you'll want to buy one of them sometime at a very much discounted rate. All that kind of stuff is just sideshow. It's not getting us anywhere.
That stuff sounds more like insurrection than a one-day tantrum.
It does, but you won't find a big heart for prosecuting it right away like they did with 1,000 people sitting in jail for 3 years before they get to a trial, if at all.
1,000 disgruntled people. Actually, a lot of them weren't even disgruntled. They just happened to wander on by and say, wow, what's going on here?
Yeah, go into your house and look around. You might not have been there before.
But you just said something that's very profound for me. Our house. We were punching, if anything, we were punching holes in our walls.
Yeah, on the other hand, there's a veneer of violence over all this. There were people that went in with the intent of violence. They were armed and dangerous, not with guns, but with all kinds of other things. They did damage to the police. They didn't kill them, but they did damage them. And they damaged the property. But they have to be separated from the sheep. The goats were bad, the sheep were good people.
I am not justifying it. This is the problem with public demonstrations, so they often get out of hand. And some probably did come with ill intent, and we need to separate them out.
Yeah, but I keep taking away from your biggest point. So please try to stay on point, even though I try to divert you off, because you have a lot to say, and I want to hear it. So do our
Well, I say that I invite everyone to use the current state of artificial intelligence, AI, Chat GPT, and run some of these questions by it. Ask the difference between unfunded liabilities, budget deficits. What are the what would it take to pay off the debt within 10, 20, 30 years? What kind of GDP growth will we have to have? Can we do it at all? How do these unfunded liabilities fit in to what we can expect down the line? This is one of the things I'm absolutely amazed at is, my wife, and she had every county budget book from the day she became eligible to vote, and would regularly pick up the preliminary budgets and go through them with a fine-tooth comb, the final budgets. All this stuff is readily available online. Anyone could find it. I used to have to go down to the county buildings. We used to have to ask for copies to be made. You had to pay for them. If you wanted for the cities, you had to go there. And I'm absolutely fascinated by the way the access to information has grown. And now with AI especially, and how ignorant we continue to be as a public.
Right. There's no excuse. We have our basic education. We learn to read and write, add things up. But we were taught to read carefully and to be discerning in who we listen to. I think we have a danger in that area too, but we'll have to limit our dangers that we can talk about today. I just had to throw in a little bit. If the tariffs work out that they have for us in the past, tariffs will be an income source that will help us decrease our budget spending, compensate for it. But we'll see about that on another occasion. Yeah.
I want to say something about not just about the tariffs, but about the opposition to Trump. I see a lot of it on my Facebook page, and I smile because, in essence, if you look at his administration like a football game, we're only 7 minutes into the first quarter. We're only halfway through the first quarter at the end of June here, and people are already calling the game on the left. People just can't stand it, how it's going to turn out. And my point of view is that this is who was elected. We need to keep vigilant, keep involved. We need to keep on our elected officials too, which most of us don't.
That's true. I mean, your Carolyn Busenhart was a dear, probably one in a million who would do all the things she did. There is a Becky Steinbruner with us who does some of those. She has her program on every Friday for 2 hours, talking to people, listening to experts on these subjects. You could be well informed when you listen to her. And Rosie and Bill in the morning, every morning on weekdays from 6 to 9, They spent 2.5 hours getting ready for a show, and they're ready to dump it all out for you to listen to. And Charlie Friedman, every day from 9 to 11, has more of the same. Yeah. He's a great teacher. You don't have to work too hard. You can just tune in and listen, all on our Santa Cruz Voice Radio.
Yeah, and then what I would say we need to start doing is translating it to action. There's that old adage that we talk about, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And all too often in this society, it's the ones that show up at city council meetings, write their elected officials, hound them to get their way.
Well, that's another thing, that almost every one of these people that could hound their government is part of a group that supports a certain expenditures of certain type. Mm-hmm. In other words, behind everything the government spends, there's a receiving group that wants to enhance what they receive, and they're going to be lobbying their officials as well. So the pressures on the elected officials are high.
Yes.
If it's in balance, as it should be. It's probably not even balanced right now. We don't have enough people lobbying for the right thing.
No, that's what Carol used to say all the time, is it's only the people that don't have what they want to show up. The others that are relatively complacent, happy with the fact that American Ninja is going to start a new season tonight, and America's Got Talent has started for the summer. You know, we have plenty of entertainment and distraction. And by the way, I'm not against that. I take full advantage of all the entertainment. And but by the same token, I spend a lot of time digging into and looking at things. Like I say, if they say something, as I said years ago, structural. I've never heard that before. And then because what you're going to get down the line, if you haven't paid attention, Jeff, they're going to say, oh, we've been talking about that for a long time. How come you didn't get it?
Right. You know, I miss, when you say that, I miss Tucker Carlson. I know I can tune into him, but I used to get him for free on Fox and listen to him. Mark Levin, every weekend, has an hour on Sunday and on Saturday, Life, Liberty, and Levin. He's one of the most knowledgeable, literate, and explainer of constitutional rights of anyone I know. He worked for the Reagan administration in the Attorney General's office, and he's been on the road, on the broadcast and such, writing books, all for our education. And you don't have to read them. You can find some of these. You can read the book to you. Yeah, listen to it.
Listen, there are so many. The number, I can't remember what it is. There's so many YouTube videos come out. It's like 8,000 hours of video come out per minute. And you can get short explanations of things. You can get long explanations of things. There's no reason to be ignorant. And with that, I got to say, I get ignorant of the fact we have to do commercials here. And maybe right now is a good time to do one.
It is. And then we'll launch off for the rest of the half hour remaining with things that we really want to talk about in more depth. So let me find the magic marker.
The magic button.
Yeah.
Is one of nature's most beneficial plants, and at Treehouse Dispensary, we use it to build community. In addition to dispensing cannabis and education, Treehouse hosts First Friday events every month that feature our community's local artists, makers, and activists. If you're 21 plus, join us at 3651 Soquel Drive every First Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. to enjoy the work of local artists and musicians, find one-of-a-kind gifts, and learn more about the top cannabis products in California. See you soon.
Get ready to help build one of America's first local news and talk streaming radio stations. SantaCruzVoice.com. How do you do it? By donating either your time, money, or both. You'll be helping the Voice team construct a powerful infrastructure, one that we can all be proud of. To donate your time, your money, or both, go to SantaCruzVoice.com and click support. SantaCruzVoice.com and click support.
It's time now to repair or replace your roof. Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. Well, we install leak-proof and fireproof roofs. Roofs that look nice with a lot of choices of colors and styles. We only install proven products with warranties unmatched by anybody. Financing is always available, and we have discounts for veterans and seniors. Do business with Knox Roofing, and you'll also receive a free Knox Garden Box. The number to call again is 831-461-0634. Thanks, folks.
You need a clean, pleasant space to conduct business, but you don't want the burden of a long, expensive lease. Your solution is Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on Soquel Avenue. Satellite offers private offices, meeting and conference rooms, even co-working by the hour, day, week, or month. Schedule a tour at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
That was all good. We like to have our commercials because they pay the bills, including advertising for this wonderful satellite building where we have our community TV and our Santa Cruz Voice Radio. So, Vernon, now we're back on our structural problem that you're going to help us handle because you are a structural engineer.
Yeah, well, first you can't handle any particular problem unless you first acknowledge it exists. You have to define the problem. I've said this many times. I believe this firmly. Is poorly defined problems have poor solutions, and everyone's got the answer to how to solve the problems, and we haven't stopped to see what it's going to take. And first of all, it will take something from all of us. It turns out that to try and get the budget, the debt to budget ratio, debt to GDP ratio down within the next 10, 20 years, we'd need a GDP growth of 10%. That's not going to happen.
Right.
It's
a lot. Unfortunately, like the other problems we've had, like consider the immigration situation where for 10, 20 years, the Senate would take up, let's have some legislation, get this straightened out. They kicked the can down the road. And look what happened in the last 4 years. You can't let that happen.
That is a problem when you have a government of, for, and by the people, and we the people don't realize that whatever's going on in this country is our fault.
Well, they should, at least a number of us. You can't opt out of it not being your fault by not doing anything.
Yeah,
because then it's your fault by default.
Yeah, so as I was telling Jeff in the break, one of the things, if you start looking at a lot of the podcasts and things going on, the most interesting things to look at are the comments. And what you see in the comments is this term that we've coined that we're living in echo chambers because depending on who makes the commentary, everyone agrees with them. You don't tend to get dissenting opinions. And to that end, I would invite everyone, whether you be liberal or conservative, to make it a point to condition yourself so you could listen to the arguments of the other side without them driving you nuts. Because that what we react to shuts us down from hearing it. And I'm a firm believer that arguments need to stand on their own merit.
Yeah, when they run out of reasons, then they start tacking names onto you, like fascist or autocrat, or something like that. Yeah,
and or taco. I can't remember what that one is. There's TDS,
terrorist,
huh?
Or terrorist.
Yeah, well, taco's a new one that they're throwing at Trump supporters, and I can't remember what it is. We've heard TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome.
Yeah.
Taco's in response to that. Maybe I'll look it up in a little bit.
Okay. That's your homework assignment, should you choose to accept it.
But I just don't know how to... Listen, I'm going to try and build a real quick thing. If you are the only person on the planet, you can do whatever you want. Oh. There is no one else's rights to tread upon. The minute you get two, you have the possibility of disagreement. And as societies grow, if they're going to work, people need to come to the point where they get along.
Well, that's part of the problem. The other one is if you're the only one on the planet, you can't depend on anyone else either. So once there's more than one, there's good reasons for you to work together with whoever you're stuck with.
Right. And I like to, we talk about society and the individual. I like to think of it more these days in terms of society and the collective. I like the term collective because it keeps the individual portion of the society, us, it acknowledges that, a collective. It's not society like one thing. It's this collection of different individuals with all these opinions. And where it comes to the rules governing the collective, us, we have agreed that we will let the majority, for the most part, make those decisions. And it's, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And unless you're willing to be a good loser as well as a happy winner, societies don't work. And Plato talked about this, is that, in societies like democratic societies, the problem is politicians don't want to tell the public unpleasant truths because, that makes them unpopular, like parents are unpopular often.
Yeah, don't be the one burying the bad tidings.
Yeah. And so they tell the people what they want to hear.
And they even promise them things that they can't deliver.
Yeah.
Hey,
and
politicians lie. That's the bottom line.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
lie. And that's all right. We get used to it.
Yeah.
And
and
take it with a grain of salt.
And it's kind of the beauty of Trump because he's not playing the game the way they're used to, and it's got people in a tizzy. And the upside of that, anyway, to a certain extent, to me, is that he's causing people to look at a lot of different issues, maybe not rationally, but at least things are being discussed that haven't been discussed.
Right. It isn't a day goes by. He's not giving a press conference or suiting up to do something special and let people know what he's thinking. The guy never seems to sleep. I don't know, but at least thankful for one thing. He at least gets dressed before he stands out before the public. It makes it more easy to take.
So yeah, we have to undergo major changes if we're going to really survive in the near future. And I'm talking about relatively near future. And we need to start looking at long-term planning. You and I aren't going to be around in 20 years, I don't think. Well, we could be. Who knows? Elon has come up with a Neuralink. Maybe we'll have a chip. Maybe we'll be able to keep the machinery alive one way or another.
Yeah, a lot to go with him when we land on Mars and open our houses there.
Well, that's another one. Just totally off topic there is everyone wants to go to Mars, but the thing is, Mars has got the same problem the Earth does. When the sun burns out, everything there dies too.
Yeah. Well, that's the way planets are made. And our country was made in a certain way. And it's good once in a while to go back to why it was made that way and how it got that way, how it may have deviated from that way.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep track of things. I urge everyone to have a copy of their Constitution handy so they can look things up and see who had the power to do what, who's prescribed against doing certain things. Otherwise, we just accept whatever one branch of government tells us.
Yeah, and I've long thought that's problematic because I think that we the people often think that just because we sent someone to Congress that the laws they pass are automatically constitutional. And I'm not saying they aren't, but once we just accept laws or they do legislation, it's signed into law, and we move on, and no one questions it, even to the point of funding. I personally, and the cows are out of the barn at this point, I think that someone could make a good argument that probably a large percentage of federal spending, if you really pushed it to the limit, is unconstitutional without really stretching the limits of the Constitution to include what things are being spent on.
Yeah, we talked once or twice about, let's put those measures out there in public where we can read them before they vote on them. Otherwise, we end up like we did with the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act. And Mrs. Pelosi said, we'll have to pass the bill so we'll know what's in it.
I advise everyone looking up a piece on the internet. It's called Public Monies and Private Supplications, written by Davy Crockett.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And have you read that piece?
No, but he's more prolific than people know. He did spend some time in Congress.
Yeah, the gist of the piece that he wrote is that there was a fire in Washington, D.C., and the Senate everyone got together immediately to appropriate money to take care of the people that had lost their houses in the fire.
Like Los Angeles now.
Yeah. And the following spring, he went home, was electioneering, and came across this man by the name of Bunce, who was widely known in his community, and went to introduce himself. And Bunce told him, he says, I know, I'm well aware of who you are, Senator Crockett, but I have to tell you, if you're out electioneering, I cannot vote for you next time. And Davy Crockett was shocked by this. Well, how come? He says, well, your understanding of the Constitution seems to be different than mine. And he gives Davy Crockett some schooling on the fact that the Constitution did not provide for charity spending, so to speak, in it under the current tariffs and under the current excise taxes and everything. And that was before we had income tax.
Well,
but it's a very, very good piece. He says, for people to give of their own private largesse is one thing, but when you're taking from the public purse, there's no requirement to be responsible, and you put burdens on people that really might not be able to afford it, while you yourself pat yourself on the back for doing wonderful things.
Yeah, Congressman Crockett served only one term of 2 years that I understood, but he stood up in Congress to help defeat a bill that was to allocate some money to the widow of a deceased major in the Army,
Yeah.
there having been no fund for that. And he indicated, we can't do that. It's not our money. We can take our money and donate it to this good cause. We can't vote away the money that our people have been taxed for. Boy, if he had been able to keep that way going, we'd be way out of the deep doo-doo that we're in today.
That was after his conversation with Mr. Bunce.
I think either before or after, but around the same time.
And there again, the easy solutions don't work. It's like tax the rich, but if you wind up looking at what's going on, if you took all the money and from every billionaire and millionaire, every billionaire for sure, you wouldn't even have enough to pay the deficit per year. I think it runs around $2 trillion.
Yeah.
And once you did that, they would no longer be contributing to the tax pool in the first place. And they pay most of the taxes anyway. But we always have to have a bad guy. There's always got to be a bad guy to blame for something.
Like the rich people, is they the bad guys?
Yeah, the rich people.
Well, Ayn Rand had the answer to that in her book Atlas Shrugged. Said, well, the rich people will just sort of retire.
Yeah.
We'll just go away now. We'll stop producing. So, folks, you're on your own. Live with what you can make yourself.
Yeah. When I was younger, people would often say that I should run for office, but I never wanted to because I always thought, first of all, I don't want to be under the light of public scrutiny, and I only want people to know who I am, that I want to know who I am. But I like the story Lord of the Rings, I don't think you can go into the system of power without becoming corrupted eventually yourself.
Well, as much as you toyed with the idea of running for office and didn't, blessings to you, I made the mistake of running 4 times for office and had the good fortune of not winning any one of those contests.
Yeah, well, my wife had the good fortune of running several times, which I helped her do.
As a county supervisor?
Yeah. But I've always felt more, I've always enjoyed being more like what they called in the military a LRP, long-range reconnaissance patrol, someone working from the outskirts to try and move things.
Well, every campaign, too, needs its supporters.
Yeah.
You need a campaign chairman, maybe a campaign treasurer, things like that. So the support that people get from running If they don't have that support, they probably shouldn't be running. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Except maybe to put up a token against the long-term incumbent that's been there too long. Someone should run against him. I'll do it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
We had some in our last round of election contests. People were doing just that.
So, this show really is about, if I was going to put a theme on it, is that if you care about your country, you really need to be involved, number one. And, over the years, we've let things slide enough. There's going to be some pain in getting things under control. And don't talk to me about, caring about the children if you don't realize that whatever debts that we leave behind, they have. Now, listen, if you want to say, hey, it's not my problem, you can certainly do that. But realize you're abrogating your responsibilities to the future. Right.
And it's always easy, like you've been saying in the last several minutes, it's easy to put the load off onto somebody else and say, all these people collectively are going to contribute to making this problem disappear. So what's your remedy, Mr. Moore, for solving the problem of the structural defects in our analysis?
We as individual citizens need to take personal responsibility for one. And I'm going to give you one example that always amazes me. People talk about the housing crisis and high cost of housing. Okay, I got it, and I accept that that's the case. But what I also realize is that no one needs to charge what the market will bear for rent.
Right.
And I'm always amazed by this. Carolyn used to have one of her customers who was a landlord. They charged a reasonable rate for their rentals based on what they bought the property for, the upkeep and stuff, a reasonable profit. And we're incredibly low and really cared about getting good tenants. And I always laugh because people say that our Democrats are the compassionate ones. So I'm going to say in Santa Cruz County, 60-70% of the higher percent of the people in California are Democrats, which means that they're probably the largest renters, and everyone's going to grab them for as much rent as they can get with the market will bear. Now, I'm not saying you can't do that, but that's what you would expect Republicans to do, the mean-spirited Republicans. So that's one way you lower your demands on the government to build affordable housing. One other thing I'll say real quickly is there's nothing that says that the so-called rich, and I'm not faulting them for this, have to take all their tax exemptions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There's certain, and I was watching Bill O'Reilly years ago, and he had a very rich man on there, and Bill O'Reilly brought that up, and the guy kind of gives this sheepish grin. He says, well, I think if more of us really believed that government would spend the money more responsibly, we'd be willing to do that. So we need to keep those things in mind. There's people that on Social Security, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of people get more out of Social Security than they ever paid in.
Yeah.
And if you don't need it, we the people can contribute in those kinds of ways. And I'm not putting this on anyone in a moral sense, but those are things that we the people can start to do personally, and there again become active in your government.
Well, then again, go back to that word compassion.
Mm-hmm.
What unfortunately too many legislators are compassionate with other people's money. So I want to make it clear, it's got to be compassionate with your own money to make it work. And as far as taking those deductions were set aside by Congress for the purpose of encouraging certain types of investments or types of things that would benefit our doing that, our money having going into that. And the richer person that would say, I'm not going to take advantage of them, is still doing something because he's paying more taxes too.
Yeah.
So good for him, but he stands out from the crowd.
Jeff, for the churchgoers, I got one too.
All right.
It's in the Bible, it doesn't say if your neighbor has two coats, take one of his extra ones and give it to someone else. It says take of your own largesse. I hear people talk about bring religion into politics in that way in a lot of different ways, but yet Christianity is a very personal thing in terms of taking care of your fellow man and brother. It doesn't, there's that biblical one, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar's, unto God that which is God's.
Yeah, pay your taxes.
Yeah. So, those are, and we hear a lot of people say separation of church and state. Well, do that. You do your own personal charity and contributions, as you talked about Davy Crockett saying. It's not the people's responsibility to pay for this widow.
Yeah. Think of a good example of someone who contributes would be Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Taking time from his multi-billion-dollar enterprises and the loss of some stock value because of the reactions of people and donating it to the cause. Working for free to use his expertise and that of some of his associates to help our country. How much that help turns out to be, we don't know. I appreciate the effort.
Yeah, well, how about there's this whole stuff going around about both Trump and Musk, two people that came out less wealthy after going into government than they went in terms of wealth. And look at how many people go into government and come out so much wealthier than when they went in.
It's unbelievably high. If we looked into all the transactions that were basically insider trading, a famous one was that of Pelosi benefiting from a benefit that she ran through Congress for MasterCard, and she had invested in MasterCard. Well, that's the way it works in the government.
Hold your elected officials accountable. Do what you can in terms of helping your own community out. What can we do? We can, in fact, try and be as little of a load on our government as possible. You're assisting with the sheriff's department as a volunteer. Yeah. I mean that relieves having to pay someone to do it. So, and then as a country, I think we need to start looking at a long-term plan. We need to start telling the truth. During I can't remember his name right now, but when COVID came out, he made a point, is that the American people are adults. We need to start telling the truth about the problems we have and start talking about the long-term solutions like that, because we do pull together. We pulled together certainly for World War II.
Yeah.
So you ask the types of things. What my recommendation would be is, first of all, to realize we didn't get here overnight. It's going to take time to get out. It's going to take something from all of us. And we need to really realize, if we're not full of it, when we talk about leaving debt for our children and caring about the future, we have to start now. And that, in fact, starts with telling the truth about how badly in debt we are, our up-and-coming debts, what this looks like for the future. We need to come to grips with the fact that we can't borrow indefinitely. And by the way, there was a guy by the name of David Walker. He was Bill Clinton's comptroller. And he's been beating this drum since 2007. On 60 Minutes, he did a whole piece talking about the problems we're facing. We will get to the point that all our money will be going to pay interest on the debt and a few other things. And that's why I say the storm's coming.
Right. And if we're having all this money going out into different places for different things, let's find out, as the Doge committee was doing, who's benefiting from that on the side that shouldn't. Look at our schools. Are they being benefited by the money that's going into it? And if so, how come they're still reading at a second grade level when they come out of high school, and so forth? And on the other hand, I think it was Will Rogers who said, be grateful you don't get all the government you pay for. So take everything with a grain of salt. You have to have a balance there. But you're very right. And we are here as a forum today and every Monday for one thing, to encourage people to do just what Vernon said. Be acquainted with what's happening in your bailiwick, whether it's the local neighborhood. You've got neighbors, and you all should be getting together, helping each other and coordinating different things that are beneficial to the community, and outward to your county, and then to the state, and ultimately to the nation. don't bite off something that's too big for you.
Yeah.
Find something you can work on and work on it.
Yeah.
Down in Monterey, the folks are working on no more PG&E batteries, please. Thank you. We don't want them here polluting our system anymore with fires and such. And they're really organized down there. I mean, really, they have a cause going, and people are actually coming to meetings and signing up for it. I'd like to see something like that here for the things we consider important. And maybe when the next emergency comes, we'll be organizing around it.
Yeah, don't be a guy in a diner who's got an opinion on everything based on how he feels about it. Be informed. See where you can help. See what you can do.
Yeah, because we can all do something.
Yeah.
And we'll have to do it fairly soon because the time will be upon us. An hour goes by very fast, especially when we lose the first 6 minutes to having to listen to the news. But we've gotten pretty far with our first step today. I tell you that if you look at the whole picture of tariffs, how long they've been with us, how they've been used in different ways, both for us and against us, I think you'll have a clear understanding of other ways that we can find ways to supplement our budget needs and maybe balance fairness. An example is that at the end of World War II, all of our European friends were in dire straits. Devastation knocked out their whole industries. And here we are intact as one of the great industries of the world. We became the leader of the free world. And we said to those countries, hey, we'll just back off. We know there's some debt owed to us and all that. Let's get you back on track. We'll have a balance of tariffs that favors you. Mm-hmm. And they've been running on that favor for a long time. We are still friends with almost every member of the European Union, but not of the Union itself. Mm-hmm. So there's some differentiating there, and we have to make that differentiation and ride with it. Be fair, be safe. What have you got for us looking at next week's agenda? Same thing?
Yeah, no, this is an ongoing dialogue. This has been a dialogue of humans since they first put together governments. And there again, there are important issues, and the technology of the day leads to additional problems that we must confront and solve as well.
A couple of news items that have come up while we were going through the past week. The Supreme Court now allows Donald Trump to suspend deportation protections for immigrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And we still have the snafus about who was in charge of the White House the last year, 2 years, 4 years. Clearly, we think it wasn't Joe Biden. I wonder if he gave a pardon to the signing pen, along with everything else.
He might have. Since that's in the past, I might not put as much attention on that as future problems. But we certainly need to look into it.
Yeah, everything is worth looking into, especially if it looks like corruption or mismanagement. Wherever it is, we want to suppress it. We don't want to have it anymore. Don't vote for it. Don't vote for people that vote for such things.
Maybe what could President Trump do with that pen? With the Biden.
Look what he did with the pen, just like his mentor, Barack Obama, did.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story for another day. Thank you for being with us, folks, and you can look for us to be on next week, and I'll be on with Jim too on Friday on his Danger Zone. So long.